So we're back. I finished the actual editing of the photos. I didn't do too much to it. The main thing that I did was I actually remove the travel wish off the image. I kind of went back and looked at the mood board as I was doing the editing, and I realized the travel wish gave it more of a washed look. It didn't actually bring out the warmth of the picture itself, which is what we were going for the summer lookbook. So I kind of went back and made a few changes to it, and took off the actual travel wish filter, and then of course I applied it to it. One thing I did forget to mention in the last section was when you're using your filters, if it's something you feel is close but it's kind of off, you can always use your tools over on the right hand side of the screen to kind of tweak the filter. So the filter is not set in stone. It's not the set all be all of the image. You can always go through and you can change your filters and kind of tweak them, if you will. So now what I have 3 of my final images that I actually like to go forward with. And what I'll do now is actually just do an export for them. And what you'll do to export, if you have multiple images and some of them you felt after you imported them, I didn't really like them. What you can do is actually you can use your control, or I'm not sure what it is on the Mac, but I believe it's control also. And then use your mouse to just click on the images that you actually want to select. And the ones you don't want to select, don't select them. Once you have all your images selected, you'll right click and then you'll do export. Now with export, you can do export with previous if you have a certain location you like to export your images to, or you can just do a regular export. And inside of the actual export field, you'll see here you can save to different locations. So for this one, I will change this because that's from a previous set that I did. So let's go to pictures. Class 1 is where I'm doing all of the exports, and I'll make a new folder and call it export. Alright, so we'll select that folder, and you'll see here on the folder path it actually shows it's going to be exported to. And on the export to, you can do specific folder, choose a folder later, and then also same folder as original photo. So wherever you import your images from, it can export to that same folder if you want to. It could be useful for me. I kind of like having them separated so you don't have to try to figure out which one is the correct one. If you're moving on the fly and you actually want to find the image, it's going to be a lot harder if you're having to choose between the two, and it may slow you down a little bit. So from there you can actually use a subfolder if you want to, and I won't use that since we're putting in the export folder just for this purpose. You can add it to a catalog if you want to. If it's an existing file that has the same name, you can set it to ask what you want to do. Choose a name for the exported file, overwrite without warning, or skip it. These are settings you can kind of change if you want to, just to kind of, if you want to click it, walk away, and let it run without worried about anything. You can kind of set that as well in there. You can rename it if you want to actually rename it for the file of the image, and it'll give you an example of what the file name will be. So let's actually do this to custom name, and I'll use classwork. Alright, so you'll start with the number 1 and 1 of 2, 2 of 2, things like that. It'll go into it, and I actually want to spell work correctly. Alright, so classwork. Alright, so now it's not a video file, so you don't have to worry about that. And then in this portion, what you can do, you can add the metadata if you add it to your image. You can add the copyright image only, or you can actually add any type of tags you want to and things like that. And you'll set that up before you actually start doing your export. But that's a totally different setup and things for it. But yeah, so you have your copyright image. You can do the copyright contact info, all except camera and raw info, and all metadata. So you can set that up if you want to. Hopefully you have it set up in Lightroom for your metadata. If not, then I may do another class about setting up Lightroom to put all that information in, but it wouldn't be helpful for right now. So after that, you can add a watermark to it if you want to. And a lot of people actually use watermarks if you're going to be using your image online, so you won't have someone try to steal them, or at least try to prevent people from stealing them. Of course, they can still work around it, But if you want to do a watermark, you can actually add words, or you can edit your watermark and add an actual image to the picture itself. So I won't add any watermarks on it this time, so I'll uncheck that. And then after the export, you can have it do nothing, which means once the export's done, it's done. You can have it show and explore, so to actually bring a folder up that shows the actual photos in them, so you can go through, check and make sure everything went out correctly. And then you have open in other applications. So if you, once it's done exporting, if you want to open it up in another application that you're using, you can actually set it up in here as well. And then go to export actions for folder now. I won't do any of that. So once we have everything set like we do, we'll do export and let it go. And you'll see up here on the left, it's kind of showing the process of the number that it's on for the photo. And I just realized I didn't do my third photo. So once we're done, I'll export that one as well to get it into the folder. But once it's done, it'll show task complete. And I believe I had it for do nothing, so it didn't open the export file. But let's go ahead and do this third one that I did as well. And I'll do export. And what we'll do this time, I will have it where it opens up the folder and explore, so you can see how that looks as well. You can also add your sharpening if you want to. And I'm sorry, I did forget to mention this. For the format, you can set it for a few different formats. So you can do a JPEG, a PSD, a TIFF, a DNG, or the original file format. I actually work in a raw file format, which is a .nef file. So I like to just convert it to a JPEG, just so for one, it's a smaller file, and for two, it's a lot easier to handle. With raw files, you like those best in Lightroom because you can actually do a lot more manipulation to it. So that's why I like working in raw files. So I'm not doing anything else to it after I get through with this, so I'll just leave it as a JPEG for now. You can set the quality for it. Of course, the higher quality, the larger the file, so that's something to think about as well. And the color space, if you're doing RGB or sRGB, pre-photo or other, if you're going to be doing any type of printing or anything else, you want to change the actual color space for it to color match for the device you're printing through. You can sharpen if you want to. I normally leave it for screen and then set the amount for high. But you can sharpen it for matte paper, glossy paper. The amounts can be low, standard, and high. So let's do this last export. And it should open up in a folder so I can show you exactly how to look if you have it set for export in folder. Alright, so now we have the classwork files. You have one of one, one of two, and then two of two. So once you do that, you can actually open your photo and you'll get a look for it. And then from there, you can put it in any type of actual application that you want to use it in, or if you want to set it up to go to your Instagrams, your Facebook pages, or if you want to just make a complete bundle of it, rename it, or hopefully you named it whatever you want the file to be named to, so you can publish to your website for your lookbook and anything else. Alright, so that should be everything from start to finish for it. So now, in the next video, I'll go over the actual class project, so you guys can get started.